didn't see her again. So I think they basically. Can you imagine her staying up for the entirety of the show?
No. She was in bed by 10 o'clock.
She was at home in bed before
Gates to
Hangman and Joe
Sovengarde
even hit
Part
the
2.
ring.
Subscribe,
She
comment,
was
leave a
dreaming.
like.
She was in deep REM sleep at that point.
We're gonna do some of these
Man, so that's the way they opened the
quests.
show. First match
We're
of the
headed
night
to
was
kill
Jamie
these
Hayter versus
bandits
Tekla.
for the
Everybody was
Jarl
banned from
at
ringside
the
because a lot
Round
of these ladies have
Causeway.
an issue with each other, and it is
We're using
rumored that they may
Ari's
be
locator to help
getting a
guide us
women's
because we have
blood
no
and
compass
guts
in
match,
case
which
to
we will talk
Sovengarde.
about in
You
just
guys
a
can
little
watch a
bit here.
GoPro's video in case to
I'm a big
Sovengarde to
fan,
kind of
Jason,
understand
Tekla.
what
I think
it's all
Tekla's
about.
presentation, theme music, her entrance, her aura, if you want to use that word, is just off the charts. I think now that we're finally starting to hear her actually say words, which she went promo-less for a large portion of her run here so far in AEW, we know that she speaks very well. I would love to have some explanation as to why they have Tekla join forces with Sky Blue and Julia Hart. We haven't gotten that. And the explanation as to why she attacked Jamie Hayter is kind of lame. You were in the wrong place at the wrong time, and I just wanted to. I mean, that's as lazy as it comes, but at least they tried. But point being is, I think Tekla is somebody that AEW should really slowly push up the ranks in AEW as far as the women's division. And I even mentioned to Jesse, I know it's improbability. It's never going to happen. I would actually have her take the TBS title off of Mercedes if that time ever comes, but we'll talk about that a little later. I think she's great.
She's very good. I've heard her speak before. I mean, I want to say we've heard her speak on Collision. I know she did one of those. God, RJ City has those interviews he does on their YouTube channel. She did one with him a while ago, so it wasn't like, oh my God, I didn't even know what she sounded like. I knew what she sounded like, and she's very good. And Jamie Hayter is very good. And they had what I thought was a very good match. It was a very stiff, kind of hard-hitting match. And it was a win that I was happy to see Jamie get because it's long overdue. I think Jamie is someone who needs to be built up slowly so that she can be in position come next year to be challenging for the World Championship, which people forget. You know, she was an AEW Women's World Champion at one time, and it was kind of a shitty way that her run came to an end. And I think that it's about time they start really seriously building her up so she can get back there. So I enjoyed the match. I thought it was a strong match.
Yeah, this was very good. Again, more so a collision match. I would have saved this for Dynamite, being that they're hopefully going to load Dynamite up with some musty matches on
Listening to some college
it was nice to have a
wrestling
match on the show that
podcast.
Have to have
JD from NY, TNT, every Tuesday
there's always a title on the line.
at 9 p.m.
And
Just
you never
chilling,
see just a
listening,
straight
playing
singles,
Skyrim.
women's
Never
match
liked
on the
to win.
undercard. You know, I tried to think back. When was the last time we
Well,
saw that?
well, I don't know
can't
how
even
relaxed
remember.
this mod list is because it
So
really
it's
makes you
not a bad
live
thing
life
to
in
have a match
Skyrim.
like
It
that.
slows
These two
things
have been
down.
feuding for a little bit. Again,
Makes
the
you
basis
eat,
of it
drink,
is
sleep,
kind of
build
silly. Not a
campfires,
lot of
which
thought
has
that
their
went
own
into it.
skills. You can unlock one of the
But
skills in the
I didn't
campfire
mind this
that
being
allows you
on
to
the
get
show.
back
It
on
felt like a
this.
collision match.
There's
The
no
reason for
fast
that is
traveling, you
because
travel
most of
back
these
for it.
women are now basically put on
It's just a
Collision
harder
and
game
kept
and just
off
more
of
fun
that.
game.
Yeah, like seriously, if you
You
look
should really
at
slow
what
down
has
and
been
just
going on
take
now
Skyrim
with
in.
Jamie Hayter,
Plus, the mod
Tekla,
makes Skyrim so
Queen
much more
Aminata,
beautiful,
the
but yet
Triangle of
still
Madness,
Skyrim,
and all
and
these
not like
women,
some other
it's like
fantasy world.
it's almost like a soft
like
brand
Nova
split where the
does way too
majority of the
much.
women are now all
And includes
put
game
together on
mechanics that are
Collision,
just
and they don't
so
really get a
different.
lot of FaceTime on Dynamite. I feel
Hard
like.
to figure out from normal Skyrim.
I can
Press a
see that
button, you
point
do
of
all
view
this
for
crazy
sure.
crap, and you're
Again,
like, what
like
the
I
hell's
said, I wish the
happening?
story was a little bit better.
This still
But
keeps
we are
most of the
building
vanilla
towards a blood and
stuff,
guts, so I think we kind of
while
know
improving
what
some
the
animations
heel
like jumping up and
woman
whatnot.
team is going to be in that blood and guts. If we do get a women's blood and guts, it's going to be Megan Bain, Penelope Ford, Tekla, Sky Blue, and Julia Hart.
We're
Again,
going this way.
Jamie Hayter.
Here.
Queen Aminata. I wanted to say Tony Storm, but I don't really know what Tony Storm's going to be doing. The babyface side is a little bit more murky. Who do you find to be on the babyface team? And who else is feuding in this thing? Nina, Chris Statlander, Willow. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you could put Willow in there, but Willow's, I think, more been beefing with Marina Shafir, so I don't know if that necessarily works, but, you know, Tony and Mina, it looks like Tony and Mina are going to be put together. To me, they're going to be the first women's tag team champions.
Yeah,
that's who I think are likely earmarked for those belts, and we're going to get the brackets, I guess, on Dynamite tomorrow, so we'll find out if they're going to be in the tournament. I can't imagine they're not, because what the hell else is Tony Storm going to do in the meantime? So you could do Tony and Mina, you could work them into it, because again, this is, you said if they do a women's blood and guts, they are doing a women's blood and guts. We know at the very least there will be a women's blood and guts. and very likely there will be amends. But Jamie Hayter went on television and said blood and guts, right? Can you imagine how shitty it would be if they give it to the men and not the women?
Yeah.
So we're going to get it, and I feel like maybe they would want, someone like Toni Storm in there, being that it's the first, and you want to get a really big name in there. It's not like coming out of this show, she has any sort of real direction.
Damage help
and if they need baby faces, I mean, again, who else has really been... I'm trying to think who else has really been involved.
Anna Jay and Tay Mello.
Yeah, okay, yes. Okay, there you go. So Anna Jay, Ty Mello, Jamie Hayter, Aminata, and then if you have one more spot open, yeah, you could do like a Willow or someone like that, and there's your 5.
Yeah, so that was a very decent opening match. Love both ladies. So Jamie Hayter got the win there. We had Jurassic Express. $500,000 on the line here. Jurassic Express, Jungle Jack Perry, and Luchasaurus against the Young Bucks, Matt and Nick Jackson. This was my second favorite match of the entire night. I thought this was great. And I said to Jesse Jason, I feel like, the Young Bucks get a lot of flack, and they are very much an acquired taste. If you don't like the Young Bucks and their style, you're never going to like the Young Bucks and their style. But I think one thing can be said, at least for this environment, they never put on bad matches. They always go out there, and it's entertaining. And they always just do a great job of getting the crowd behind the match, and it's just a lot of excitement. And as far as Jurassic Express, I just have a soft spot for them. I've been calling for this for like several weeks now, even before Jack Perry came back with Luchasaurus. I think them as a tag team injects a lot of life into the division. I have a soft spot for that team because when I was actually more pro AEW than I am now, I looked at Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus, and I thought the concept itself was cool, a boy and his dinosaur. It kind of played off, what a lot of young kids at that age, look at, dinosaurs. A lot of kids, my best friend, his son, very young, was into dinosaurs. And I just looked at that as a really cool gimmick. And I thought they were a great tag team then. I still think they're a great tag team now. So I have a soft spot for them. I enjoyed the shit out of this. I don't know what anybody else thinks, but I enjoyed this for what it was. I don't really care for the $500,000. I don't know what the Jurassic Express are going to do with $500,000, but I enjoyed this.
What's at the end of this path?
I love that.
I forgot about that, yeah.
My shadow.
I'm actually happy that they lost because now they can continue the broke-ass Bucks gimmick, which is honestly probably one of the more entertaining parts of the show, week to week. So I've enjoyed the hell out of that. It was an excellent match. The one thing that bugged me, and I mean, again, this is also an issue a lot of the time, but in this match they did a sequence where Jack Perry took a spike package pile driver immediately into a BTE trigger, and he kicked out.
Yeah.
So it's like we know that we get a lot of near fall spots on these shows. And I think I even saw there was a report today, supposedly, I don't remember where it came from, but MVP, I think, maybe has cautioned some of the talent there that there's too many false finishes in their matches, which there are. But in that instance, it's like, okay, we got Jack Perry taking a spike package pile driver into the Bucks finish and he kicks out. To me, that was a bit much. But beyond that, the match itself, I thought was excellent. And then we had Kenny Omega coming out when the match was over, and the Callis family, and Kenny Omega apparently has forgiven the past sins of Jack Perry. I still think they're running an angle here where there's some ulterior motive to what Perry is doing. I would not be at all surprised if Jurassic Express is back, but they're not, kind of fully back. We'll see how that plays out. But in terms of tag team matches on the show, not the only excellent one, but it was the first, I think, truly great one that they had all night. And it's just a sign of the strength of the tag team division. Now, you said we were going to bring this up, but you look at that tag team division 5 or 6 years ago, and it really was the calling card of this company. If you were to look at the AEW product and say, okay, what are the strengths of this product? If that wasn't number one,
They
that
might
was
have
in the
just
top.
let
They're
the
a little
sound
bit
of
green
it.
They had the best
so.
tag team division
I
in all
suppose
of
that's fair
wrestling.
enough.
Well, the Young
You
Bucks,
only
when
lose-
AEW was
You're
first
right.
started, they came out publicly and said this show,
Much better
the
being
backbone of
fair.
this show was going to be tag team wrestling.
Wait,
And it
what
was.
are you
For a
trying to
good 2
say?
years, it was. Absolutely.
Yeah, and it was, and they were right.
Nothing.
And then they got away from that. And I blame a lot of that on the introduction of the trios
You two are
titles. And I just think
ridiculous.
Tony took his eye off the ball, and the tag team division suffered as a result. And now it's almost like they kind of snuck up on us where you look at the tag team division now, and it's as strong as it's ever been. Because you've reunited Jurassic Express, and you've got the Bucks, and of course they can go out and have a match like that. I know Takeshita and Okada are not a permanent team, but they make obviously a hell of a team. Bandito and Brody King have turned into an excellent team, and a very fun team to
Yeah,
watch.
so that was a waste.
They're in the process
almost.
of reuniting the Acclaim.
You find that
You've
Karen
got
was
any
on, I should
combination
explore it.
of Callis family members that you could put together, and then of course you've got the Death Riders.
Part of the OG.
You've got FTR, and you've got Jet Speed, and I'm sure Cope and Christian. We haven't seen the last of them.
The Hurt Syndicate.
GOA, and that's probably not even all of them.
That's like 11 and 12 teams right there.
I mean, their tag team division is stacked right now. I mean, it's honestly the tag team situation in
seen
this
this before.
company is what I wish we had in
Is this part
WWE
of
because they
vanilla
insist
Skyrim
on
or
keeping
part
two
of the
separate tag
business
team
of the
titles
part?
in that company. And every
Just
month
read
that
this
goes
again,
by,
just give me a
boy, does that
second, I'll
decision
look
to
this
split
up.
those belts look dumber and dumber.
You mean to tell me, bro, it's not sufficient enough for Finn Balor and JD McDonough to defend the titles twice in 111 days?
July 28th was the last time prior to last night that those
The
titles
case
were defended.
Southwest of-
Why am I not
Okay.
surprised this guy's got an actual fucking date over there?
Yes. Oh, I do. Oh, I do. July 28th. In fact, I believe they defended against the LWO on that show. And so, yes, I wish we had a tag team division to accommodate two sets of tag team titles. Here they only have one, if you don't count the trios. They only have one. And it's like they have too many teams. So it's nice to see them getting back to their roots, at least in terms of that, at least, because that was their calling card early on. And the tag team division was on fire. And when the tag team division is on fire, we saw it with SmackDown earlier this year. It makes the product, at least in terms of that, it makes the product more fun to watch.
Yes, I agree. I love tag team wrestling. Are we looking at the men's blood and guts match formed before our very eyes with the inclusion now of this Omega, Young Bucks, Jack Perry
The
storyline? Where
Outrunners. I knew I forgot somebody. The Outrunners.
I've seen someone mention the Jack Grizzled Young Veterans too, which are buried on Ring of Honor television.
Yeah, what happened to them?
Hey, get
Are they
them on
employed
TV.
anymore?
Yeah, they
Such
are.
a splat.
God.
Are we looking at the men's
Dude,
blood and
girl,
guts here match?
damn,
Blood
sneaking
and guts
for-
match here with
sneaking
Jungle
for a
Boy,
reason, girl.
Luchasaurus, Young Bucks, and Kenny Omega against a mixture of the Don Callis family to the men's side.
I was thinking the Death Riders would be involved. Honestly, the Death Riders need to be dissolved in acid. No, I'm kidding. They need to be dissolved. So the Callis family makes all the sense in the world because my God, there's so many members you could choose from, and I'm sure Ibushi would have been involved. Obviously now he won't be. So it's Omega, Jungle Boy,
Creepy,
Luchasaurus, and
dusty
it'll be easy enough to come up with two other names. So yeah. I mean that would seem to be the likely scenario for a men's blood and guts.
Tony said nothing at all when asked about two blood and guts matches, but
Think of the
I
science,
think
Lucian.
the general
Think of the
consensus
science.
is he's leaning towards doing
Not of
two.
the horrible undead
2.5
lurking
hour
around every
Dynamite
corner.
where two blood and guts matches take place. I could see him doing that.
He'll do too. I mean, they're running the Greensboro Coliseum that night. It's gonna be a big Dynamite. They're gonna do too.
Private Party? I don't know those guys. So where are they? I don't know.
Yeah, private party. Can't find time for them.
No, you can't. We found time for the Hurt Syndicate. Again, against the demands. Bishop Khan, Toleone, and Ricochet, Bobby Lashley, Shelton Benjamin, MVP.
Never thought I'd see the day we were run.
You know, the one thing I mentioned
We
here,
were
Jason, is,
run out
the
of
way
them, I
AEW
suppose.
did things
At least the
backwards
Storm should cover
with
our
this.
track.
All out, we got a trios match
shot
where
your
the Hurt
kids on the
Syndicate
nose.
lost.
But there's no
And then we
point.
got at
Just
Bailey's
figure out
Place Street Fight,
Drop
which
it
the Hurt
around.
Syndicate won against the
Big crowd
demands.
and
And then
rainbow
they
want to
did
step
this match
up
here,
for
which
a while,
was
maybe do some waiting.
a
Yeah, no matter the rules
trios
preserved,
match,
especially this
which
time
is
of year, find you a
basically
better
Street
place to flip
Fight, but
noise.
named
They seem
differently.
awfully insistent about
And
being
the Hurt
here.
Syndicate
Meant to
again
let
win
it land in
here,
hand.
pretty much
And I want to
squeaky
hunt
clean.
tonight.
Now, I looked at this and I said to Jesse on Saturday, why did they do things backwards here? Because you would think, like, the street fight match should have never happened, and if you wanted the blow off, the street fight should have happened here on Saturday at Wrestle Dream. Instead, they gave us 3 matches instead of 2. And then you look at the Demand, who, by all accounts, are not in demand, and they feel as ice cold as ever. And Ricochet is worse off now in the Demand than he was 6 months ago without it. So what the hell's going on?
Yeah, I mean, you could have really tried to do something with him coming out of that Swerve Strickland feud, and he just seems to be in a worse position now than he was before. And he's got backup now. Yeah. And he's in a worse position now than he was before. I mean, the match itself, again, it was like a TV match. I mean, literally, their last trios match was a TV match. And this one was kind of more of the same. It was fine. And the Hurt Syndicate, they get the win, so they win the series. I know GOA got a win over them in a regular tag team match, which is going by trios. Hurt Syndicate, you know, they win the series. And so now they're getting a trios title match tomorrow night against the Ops. Where that leaves Ricochet and the Gates of Agony, I don't know. I think Gates of Agony, I will say Gates of Agony are just kind of by default in a better position now than they were before, because before, you never saw them. And at least now you see them. I know it's low praise. Ricochet is in a worse situation, and I honestly don't know where he goes. He doesn't seem like, if you look at AEW as like a puzzle board, I don't know where his piece goes. He doesn't seem to really have a place right now that he fits. So we'll see tomorrow if they're on the show, if they kind of tease a new direction for him. But the Hurt Syndicate now, at least they're going to challenge for the trios titles, since they did win this series. It makes sense. Did GOA and Ricochet never did get their trios title match, did they? Because Shibata was hurt.
No, they got a tag team title match because apparently Shibata was hurt, and that was one of the shows, I think it was in Pittsburgh, where they got a tag team title match against Brodito, and they lost.
So that just voided any chance, of them getting it. Is that how it works?
Yeah, I guess, yeah. That's what I went with. I don't know.
Well, then I don't know where they go from here.
You know, I thought Cedric Alexander was going to debut here. I think we talked about it last Tuesday as well, as far as as part of the predictions. We didn't see no Cedric. I don't know what's going on there, if at all, if he's even coming in.
Well, maybe they want to check his non-compete, make sure.
Yeah.
They don't want to put him on TV, without doing their due diligence first after what just happened.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I think that's a good decision if they want to do that, because I think the growing discussion is getting Bobby Lashley out of that, because they're so light on main event talent, and get him into the AEW World Title picture while you can team Cedric and Shelton together to go after the tag team championships. But
50%
I mean, I'm not AEW.
If you're going to do that, though, it makes more sense to wait until next year, like early next year, because if I assume MJF is going to win the championship from Hangman, I still see him winning that title with World Tag. I'm sticking to that. So it would make more sense to hold off until MJF has the belt, and then you can circle back around to the whole MJF Bobby Lashley thing. So I wouldn't be doing that just yet, but I could see that being a direction for him, because you just get to a point where after a few more months of this, like, okay, where to next, right? I would love to see Shelton doing more single stuff. I would love to see Lashley do some more single stuff. And Lashley and MJF is something that they just never did. So it would make sense to come back to it. And could they add a member like Cedric? And again, Cedric is not going to be like any kind of difference maker in the big picture, but adding him to the Hurt Syndicate to get the whole original band back together, I mean, that would be kind of cool. And then they'll have, kind of more manpower there. But Bobby Lashley and MJF, I think, is something that still has to be done. I mean, it's very strange how they just cut that thing off cold. Man, it was like, we're just going to end this, and we're just going to move on.
Yeah, it doesn't feel right. Yeah, I agree. There was a lot of meat left on that bone there. I don't know. It must have ended up in some political back and forth where someone didn't want one guy a part of the group. I don't know. I don't know what happened there, but there is a story there. And if it's going to be MJF and Bobby Lashley, Hurt Syndicate against MJF, I'm very curious to see what MJF comes back to and who he comes back with. So, yes, please save us, MJF. We need him back very, very badly. Yeah, this was counterproductive in my opinion. Again, the Hurt Syndicate beat the Demand, and I don't know where they go. TNT Championship match. Kyle Fletcher defended the title against Mark Briscoe. This is one of the matches that Jason mentioned when it's over 25 minutes here. And You know, I look at the overall card and I question some of the decisions that are made on these pay-per-views. I don't really know why this needed to be on the show. And granted, some people might feel like it certainly belongs on the show, but you could, if you want them to go 25 minutes, give them a spot on Dynamite on Wednesday and have them co-main event right after or right before Okada and Bandito. Like, I don't understand why this needs to go 25 minutes on pay-per-view. And I attribute that, Jason, to, you know, Kyle Fletcher's a great pro wrestler. Mark Briscoe's a great pro wrestler. The TNT Championship, ultimately, in my opinion, doesn't really mean much of anything. And the story here is very convoluted. Mark Briscoe beat MJF. He certainly, in my opinion, should have been at least in a consideration for the AEW World Championship match against Adam Page. He was not. They went in a completely different direction. They got him back in the conglomeration. He's challenging the Don Callis family and Kyle Fletcher here specifically for the TNT title. And then he loses. Now, I look at that in a way where he just beat a former AEW World Champion, the longest reigning AEW champion of all time in MJF, to go challenge for the TNT Championship and then lose. It's almost as if, again, counterproductive creative. Mark Briscoe beat a former AEW champion and you did nothing to follow it up by having him continue that momentum, and you just put him right into a situation where he loses to Kyle Fletcher. I don't really know the decision making, why, but how did you feel about this? I know it went 25 minutes. I mean, it was a great match, but I just feel like they just do 25-minute matches just to kind of offset the fact that there really is no story, and they're going to give you as much wrestling as they can to make you think, well, here, it belonged on the show, and there you go.
Well, I mean, there was kind of a story here, and they got away from it, and I thought they were going to do, and I still think they should have, on that anniversary show, they should have done Hangman and Briscoe on that show. Or you could have done it on this pay-per-view. Either one. But because he did beat the MJF, it would have made sense to do Hangman and Briscoe, just tying it back to like some of those TV segments that we saw back in, I think, August it was. You know, when Hangman every week was telling MJF, you haven't done anything to deserve it, you have to earn it, right? But there was some interaction with him and Briscoe. And they didn't even bother playing off of that. They didn't do the match. I thought that was a missed opportunity. I never expected Briscoe to win the TNT title, though. They're still, you know, they're pushing Kyle Fletcher. You know, they're trying to build up Kyle Fletcher, and Kyle Fletcher already lost to Hangman. It would have been a mistake for him to go in here and lose to Mark Briscoe. Why would you have Mark Briscoe beat Kyle Fletcher? Like, originally, I thought they were going to do Fletcher and Omega, and then they completely got away from that. And I said, if they do that match, Fletcher has to beat Kenny. You can't have Fletcher go in there and lose back-to-back to Hangman and Kenny. At that point, it's not enough to say, oh, I hung with them. Like, no, he has to win at some point.
Well, Mark Briscoe also needed to win, too, but they just put him in a match to lose.
No, but he needs to win less because Mark Briscoe is not going to be world champion one day. Mark Briscoe is not the one that they plan to build around. Like, that's Kyle Fletcher. Kyle Fletcher is more important to them in the long term than Mark Briscoe is.
Which makes you wonder, Kenny Omega was at this show, on this show. I don't know why they just couldn't do Omega and Fletcher and give you a simple outcome like Fletcher beating Omega. What's the harm in that?
I don't know. There was some talk about, and I don't know how reliable it is, there were some reports out about Omega maybe physically didn't feel like right now he's in a position to go out there and have the kind of match that he wants to have with Fletcher. I don't know how accurate that is. I do look at him sometimes and he does, I don't know, he looks like he's in some pain, but so whatever the reason was, they completely abandoned that. It was like, that's why when Andrade attacked him, it's like, okay, are we moving on now to Omega and Andrade? Which turns out not to be the case, obviously. So, but no, I look at it as Fletcher is the one that you want to build up. Briscoe, in some ways, I look at Mark Briscoe, and I'm going to make the comparison. I see some of Mankind.
Really?
And yes, and the position that Foley was in when he was Mankind, like in the Attitude Era, and was the lovable babyface version of him. He was a guy who was very likable. Fans got behind him, and he was great at putting other people over. He was great in terms of using him as that lovable, likable character to put in there with a heel that you wanted to get over, which is what he did for Triple H, in particular Triple H. And I just see some of that in him. He's that goofy, off-the-walls kind of character that you just want to root for. He's funny, he's entertaining. He goes out there and abuses his body, just like Foley used to do. He's always bleeding and all this stuff and doing hardcore shit. But he's not the guy. You know what I mean? Like they'll put him in the ring with the person who maybe they want to be that person. But I just Fletcher is the priority right now. It's not Briscoe. Briscoe doesn't lose anything by losing because he's still going to go out there and be well liked by the crowd. So, you know, I can understand thinking that he beat MJF. There should have been a better plan for him, but they squandered that by not doing him and Hangman. So at that point, it's like, what are you going to do? You know, they fucked up by not doing that match.
Yeah,
but he wasn't going to win that match either.
No, he wasn't. Listen, I said I would have rather him lose that match just because he's earned that match by beating MJF. But, I mean, they did nothing. They did everything backwards. But Kyle Fletcher retained the title here. It went 25 plus minutes. I mean, if they gave us 16 to 18 minutes here, it would have been even better. But they feel like they need to fucking add an extra 10 minutes to everything here and just bloat everything.
Yeah, that was my biggest. If I had one complaint about the match, I thought the match was very good.
Yeah.
If I had one complaint about the match, it did not need to go as long as it did. No. And it was one of those matches on the show. If I had 2 or 3 matches that I could have clipped some time off of and give to something else or give to the very end of the show, this is one of the matches that if you shaved off 5 or 6 minutes, it would not have hurt the match at all. Like it might have actually enhanced it, you know, but it would not have hurt the match. So it didn't need to go that long.
No. This is where we get a little bit controversial as far as some of the things that AEW has done creatively here, and a lot more questions arise from their decisions. The AEW Women's Championship match, Chris Statlander defended against Toni Storm. I thought the match was fine. I didn't really think it was Tony's best or Chris's best here. It went somewhere in the vicinity of 12 to 15 minutes. I don't have the exact time in front of me. Chris Statlander won, Chasen, very clean as a whistle here. And predominantly, in my opinion, from what I watched, the match was largely uneventful with a crowd that was very indifferent for a good portion of it, about 75% of it. There was maybe that tail end 5 minutes towards the end where they started to actually get into it a little bit. But Statlander wins clean. Toni Storm is now kind of in a position where she's lost everything. And we'll talk about what she did with Mina a little bit later in the show here. But Stat wins, and they have Stat in a position as the world champion. And I've been very critical. Jesse loves Statlander, and he complains about the things that they do that they do or don't do with her.
You're arrested.
And I feel that after she won the championship, it just happened randomly because they wanted a change. And maybe they wanted this match to happen one-on-one here at this show on Saturday. But they didn't really build Stat up with the idea of we're going to give her her first major World Heavyweight Championship and we're going to make a story out of it. It just kind of happened. And then when she won it, she didn't really express how important of a moment that was, what it meant to her, what it meant for her to win that championship. We didn't get anything in regards to that. It was just like, here's the championship, now go and defend it against who we tell you to. So I felt like they majorly dropped the ball on that because she's been a day oneer, and I feel like she deserves a little bit more than what they've given her. So she beats Toni Storm here, and then as she's in the ring, beating probably the top female in their division, who's held the championship longer than anybody, out comes Mercedes. She saunters down to the ring with the fucking frat party and Griff Garrison and Jack the Jameson holding her myriad of championships. She gets in the ring and she big leagues Chris Statlander out of the ring, telling her, get out of my ring. Now it's my time. So I'll stop there. I know we had a major problem with that because that's your AEW Women's Champion. I don't give a shit who's out there. You don't do that to the newly crowned Women's Champion. Why would they treat Chris Statlander in the Women's Championship with such a level of disrespect after she just beat Toni Storm for the championship a month earlier? What'd you think of this moment?
I thought it was silly in terms of Statlander just obliging and leaving. Now she did come back out later, so it's not like she didn't, try to get some, measure of revenge on her. But like in the moment, she just looked. I always talk about like the security geeks when they come out and everything. She looked like a geek in that moment, just walking away. So I had an issue with that, but like it makes sense now that we know where they're going, which is they're going to Statlander and Mercedes next. So this was that first interaction here to set up what was going to be, the announcement that came later on that they're going to wrestle at full gear. So this was just the start of that angle. Again, not a huge fan of her just walking away like that, but at least it did make sense because it was setting something up. If it was just one of these kind of meaningless things where her match ended and Mercedes came out and talked to her the way she did and Stat just walked away and they're not even going to work together, that would have been fucking dumb. But at least there was a reason for them to interact in that way.
So Stat beat Tony, and then we get Mercedes coming out, big league and Chris Statlander. She goes away for now. She does come out, like Jason said. We'll get into that in a second. But Mercedes is out there, and she wrestles Mina Shirakawa. I'm going to pause here. I'm going to take over here for a second.
Yeah. So they announced very late in the game that she was going to be having an open challenge. Originally on Dynamite, they just said she was going to be there. Right? They didn't say what she was going to be doing. And apparently they didn't want to announce what she was going to be doing because she wrestled at, I think she was at Arena Mexico on Friday night, defending her title against, one of her titles, against Persephone. So they didn't want to kind of spoil the outcome there because she was trying to break Ultimo Dragon's record with the number of belts. So that's why they didn't announce what she was doing in advance. So she's doing an open challenge, and then they changed it to she's challenging any other champion to come out to the ring. Which honestly, what options are there if not someone from Ring of Honor? Because we know Chris Statlander is probably, in that moment I was hoping she wasn't coming out, because that would have ended very badly for Chris Statlander if she came out to answer the open challenge. So like, are we supposed to believe that there's just a bunch of random champions from other promotions just hanging around backstage? So I'm just waiting. I'm like, hey, maybe Athena is going to come out, right? We haven't seen her in a while. She was banged up. I don't know if she's injured or just resting or what's going on there. But I'm like, hey, maybe we'll get Mercedes and Athena. Maybe now that she's broken Jade's record, maybe she'll drop the belt to Athena. And then we see Mina come out. And I had forgotten that Mina is a champion because she's an interim champion. So she's not just going after regular titles now. Now she's going after interim titles. But it's not just an interim title. It's an interim television title for a promotion that has no TV deal. Just keep that in mind. Red Velvet is the Ring of Honor television champion. She's been champion, I want to say, since...
It smells of death down here.
Was it last year? She's had the title for a little while. I don't remember exactly how long. In June, she got hurt. She's not wrestled since June. My question to you, why do we need an interim Ring of Honor television title? Why is this a thing?
I don't know if she's been injured since June. We're going into November now next week, a week and a half.
But it's a television
I
title.
don't know.
Like Athena, I could actually understand because Athena's been champion for over 1,000 days. And what a shit way for her run to end if she had to just give it up because of an injury. So I can kind of understand it if they had an interim, like, women's world title. But do we really need an interim Ring of Honor television women's championship? I'm just, every time I see her out there with that belt, I'm floored that this thing even exists. That was just ridiculous.
So what are we going to do now that she's the interim champion? Is Mercedes going to wrestle and defend the interim Ring of Honor TV championship against Red Velvet when she returns? And are we really to believe that Red Velvet's going to beat Mercedes for her title back?
Well, so let's skip ahead here, okay? Because spoiler, she won the match. Mercedes. I mean, I don't think you're surprised by me saying this, but yes, Mercedes defeated Mina, and so that was belt number 11, and then the next night in Winnipeg, she won belt number 12.
Mina, by the way, 0-4 in championship matches in AEW.
Yes. I don't think it's title for title. They could always make it. I don't see the point in doing that. So the match is official, and here's where I look at this and I go, okay. There's a story here to tell with Mercedes. There is a downward spiral story to tell with Mercedes. If this is what this is leading to, that can begin at Full Gear. Because Chris Statlander wrestled Mercedes at Full Gear last year, and she lost. And then they wrestled again at World's End, and she lost. So she's coming into this 0 for 2. You cannot have her
If
go
we
in
could
there
keep
and go
moving,
0 for 3
that'd
against
be great.
Mercedes. There has to be a light at the end of the tunnel here where Chris Statlander finally gets that win. And Mercedes already fought for the World Championship once. That's the only match that she lost. So there's a story there where she gets a second shot and she fails again. She has all these belts and she's going around and she's pumping her chest out and she's all, you know, full of herself that I'm 12 belts Monet. But the one belt that she actually really cares about is the one belt that she cannot win. It's the one championship she just cannot get her hands on. She lost to Tony. She'll lose to Statlander if they know what they're doing. She'll lose to Statlander, and then you can start the downward spiral. Because I do believe that the plan here is for her to go back to all these companies where she has all of these titles and to drop them one by one. Now think about it. What happens if she beats Chris Statlander and becomes the AEW World Champion?
We are right back in the situation that we all complained about for weeks going into All In.
But dude, if the idea is that eventually she's got to drop all these belts, right? She's not just going to give them all up.
The TBS title. And the TBS title will be on the line in the Women's Continental Classic.
Well, I mean, if they did that, then it should be, but it probably would just create a Women's Continental title. Why would he do... Why would it be any different?
More championships.
Of course. He's not done. He's going to add more. Like, why would it be any different for the women than it is for the men? If the men have a continental title, why wouldn't the women have one? So,
well, bro, lucky number 13, you don't think that has a nice ring to the creative department over there? Her winning number 13 beating Chris Statlander?
I don't care what it sounds like to the creative department. If the creative department knows what they're doing, she will lose this match at Full Gear. Because, again, the biggest sticking point here is just that if she is going to start dropping, at some point she will start dropping those other championships. She cannot do it if she is the AEW Women's World Champion. Tony Khan would be an idiot to have his Women's World Champion going around losing everywhere. Right? That's the opposite.
Well, who's
of
to
what
say
he
she has to lose? Can't she just give them back?
She could, and that would be awful. Like, if we believe the mission here, which is to bring a greater awareness to women's wrestling, and there are many promotions where she has come in and has helped them sell a bunch of tickets, and it has helped their business, then the only way that this makes sense, if she's truly in it to not just bring awareness to women's wrestling, but to help out these promotions and to help out women in wrestling, is to properly drop each of these titles and put somebody over for it. And even if there was like 1 or 2 belts that ended up getting vacated, but she's got so many of them, dude, she can't just vacate them and match. She's got to lose them. And you can't do that if you're holding the world championship in AEW. So it gives me hope that she won't win at Full Gear. But don't you think that the right story here to tell is that for all these celebrations that she comes out and has on television every time she wins a belt, and she's got belts on tables and shit, she's always gloating, that the one title that she deep down really cares about is the one that no matter how hard she tries, she keeps failing and she can't get her hands on, and she has to hit rock bottom first before she eventually can win it. Isn't that the story here that would make sense at this point?
Well, it would be the only story she has for her titles in the entire time she's in AEW. Yes. So if that's the one, yes.
She has to hit rock bottom before she ever holds that championship. She will hold that championship, but in 2026, she should not be winning it from Chris Statlander at Full Gear.
Any comments on the comparison she made to herself and Bret the Hitman Hart, saying that she's the best to ever do it?
Well, she's a heel. She's trying to get a rise out of people, and it worked. Like, I'm the biggest Bret Hart fan there is, and I laughed at it when I read it.
Now, she does have an interim championship. By all accounts, is that actually recognized as a championship in AEW, like legitimately?
Yeah, apparently it is.
So if we don't do that, and I don't know why we're recognizing the Owen Hart Memorial Championship there, which is not a defended championship in the company. It's not a recognized title in the company. We would be looking still at 10 belts Monet. So I guess they're really playing up the gimmick. Huh? I just had a problem with her winning an interim championship to break the record. I mean, I just find that to be ridiculous.
I think the mere existence of that interim title is offensive to me. Like, it's so dumb. There's no need for it. Like, they should have just had, when Red Velvet got hurt, then they should have vacated the championship and they should have had a new champion crown. Like, it's not that important of a title or a reign where I think an interim title was needed. Athena, if she got hurt, I could totally understand that. But the television title, give me a fucking break. I mean, there's no need to have an interim champion.
No, we will keep a close eye on that. I am in full agreement there. Mercedes needs to lose at Full Gear. Whether that happens or not, that remains to be seen. Statlander deserves a lot better. Hopefully they do her that favor. Match of the night to me, Brodito defended the tag team championships against Okada and Takeshita here. The reason why this match happened is because there was a double eliminator the week prior to the pay-per-view, and the challengers here beat the champions and earned themselves this championship match. This was more so about Okada and Takeshita, Jason, where Okada big miscue on Takeshita, and he just stood there laughing and smiling and almost acted as if he did it on purpose, something that he long wanted to do here. So they're still, you know, slowly bringing us along with the Okada and Takeshita tension. But like we mentioned before, we don't need to go into great detail. Again, Brodito has really added a spark to the tag team division. I think Brodito may be the wrestler of the year in AEW. I think he's #1 luchador in the world. On top of that, it's nice to see Brody in a spotlight
take a
because a
while.
lot of